Welcome back to the Ancestral Findings Podcast. If you've been following this series from the beginning, you know it was never really about the war itself. It was about what happened after. The years that didn't make it into the history books, the long commutes to jobs that weren't glamorous but paid the bills, the evenings sitting under a dim lamp, filling out pension forms and medical questionnaires, the marriages, the new babies, the new names scribbled onto records, and sometimes the silences that stretched on for decades. Silences that never really closed. I've spent years digging into military records the same way you probably have. Draft cards, muster rolls, enlistment papers, and discharge notices. They're essential, but they're only one part of the story. They tell us where someone served, what units they belong to, maybe even the battles they endured. But those papers can't tell you who your ancestor became after the fighting stopped. That's the part their descendants, you and me, need if we're going to fully understand the families we come from. Because we don't just inherit their military service, we inherit what came afterward. When we talk about veterans, we often picture them in uniform. But they were also sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, neighbors and workers. They were wanderers who moved west looking for a fresh start. Storytellers who couldn't stop sharing war memories, or people who locked those memories away and never spoke of them again. And in too many cases, they slipped into the quiet category I think of as ghosts. Not supernatural ghosts, but the kind that fade out of memory because no one speaks their names anymore. This series was for them. The question that shaped my research was simple. They came home, and then what? Some picked up the threads of the lives they'd left behind. They went back to farms, factories, and family shops. Others had to reinvent themselves from that ground up. A few changed their names entirely and lived out their days under new identities. And then there were those who never really made it home at all. Their lives existed mostly on paper, in hospital ledgers, pension rolls, or military burials. Their stories didn't get told around the family table. And then there were the personal lives. Some married the people they'd been writing to during the war. Others came home and married strangers, eager to start fresh. Some raised families who never knew a thing about their wartime service. Others spoke of it constantly, almost compulsively, as if talking could wash the memories away. When I went looking for them, I found these men and women scattered throughout the records. They show up in census schedules, sometimes listed in boarding houses. They appear in VA hospital admissions, sometimes year after year. Their names slip into faded obituaries, church bulletins, or city directories. Other times they appear only in the silence. A father who was never mentioned, a brother who never came home. And yet the clues are there, always. You just need to know where to look. Maybe you've already uncovered some in your own family tree while you've been listening. This whole project has reminded me that there is no such thing as an unimportant detail. A job title in the 1950 census. An address buried in a city directory, a small note in a widow's pension application. He was never the same after the war. These scraps explain why an ancestor lived in a certain place, why they worked the job they did, or why they seemed withdrawn or unsettled. Think of your own family for a moment. Maybe you had a grandfather who was always quiet, or a great uncle who drank too much and eventually left town. Maybe you've heard a story about someone who went out west and was never heard from again. Or maybe there's an old photo of a man in uniform tucked away in a drawer. No name on the back, no one left alive who remembers him. All of these are invitations to look again, because some veterans came back and rebuilt everything. Others just struggled to get through each day. Both deserve to be known. If you've identified one of these people in your research, don't keep the discovery to yourself. Write it down, share it with your family, add it to your tree. These are not just dry records. These are human beings, and they only remain lost if we allow them to stay quiet. And if you haven't yet pieced together what happened after the war for your ancestor, don't give up. Go back to records you might have skipped. Search the directories, the tax rolls, the union rosters, apprentice records, land transfers, or even cemetery plot books. Try every spelling of their name. Consider every possible nickname. If the paper trail runs thin, DNA can sometimes give you the hint you need. And don't underestimate oral history. Ask the oldest relative in your family what they remember, even if the story sounds strange. Sometimes those odd details are the clues that open everything up. Why does it matter? Because this is where your story begins too. That grocery clerk you see listed in 1930, he might have been the man who once repaired tanks in Europe. That nurse in a small-town hospital, she might have driven a supply truck across Italy. That grandfather, who never said much but could fix anything with his hands. Maybe he learned those skills in a Navy workshop when he was 19. And this doesn't just apply to veterans of major wars. Don't forget the small conflicts, the skirmishes, the home guards, and the militias. Not everyone wore a medal or marched in a parade, but their service shaped their lives, and by extension shaped yours. Understanding who our ancestors became after their wars helps us understand ourselves in the present. That's the real gift of family history. And if we don't tell these stories, then who will? If you've got a hard-to-find ancestor you're stuck on, I'd love to hear about it. Just head over to ancestralfindings.com and click on Contact to send me a message. While you're there, take advantage of our free weekly genealogy lookups. Explore thousands of articles and enjoy hundreds of podcast episodes. We've been helping family history researchers since 1995. And if you're looking for even more, check out our Genealogy Gold Q&A series over on Patreon. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy searching.